welcome back to another episode of the Global Trial Accelerators podcast. Today, I'm joined with Carolina Alarco, founder of BioStrategy Advisors and a 25-year biotech veteran who's helped companies accelerate from lab to global markets. Carolina spent 15 years at Genzyme, served as president of both Aegerion and Novelion through successful exits, and currently sits on multiple biotech boards, including Syte.bio. And she's also co-founder of Latinos in Bio and a strategic advisor to E2MC Ventures, bridging biotech and space technologies. With hands-on experience launching therapies across 100 plus markets worldwide, Carolina brings the exact strategic insight our medtech and biopharma listeners need to accelerate their trials. So let's dive in. Carolina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julio. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Excellent, Carolina. So let's get the party started here. Let's talk about your personal and professional journey, especially your personal journey. I'm very intrigued. You came from Peru, right?
Yes,
So how is
correct.
it? What's the journey behind that?
So I was born and raised in Peru, and I decided to study a graduate degree in Boston. So I came here in the 90s, basically, when I was in my 20s. And I got a master's degree in international business. And then I observed around me that the up and coming industry was biotechnology. In the 90s, very few people were involved in biotechnology. So it really caught my attention because I've always been into innovation and what's the future, right? So in Peru, I had been working for almost 5 years at Abbott Laboratories. So I had some big
Okay,
pharma
that's good.
experience. hmm And during my graduate degree, I met a scientist that was studying um, a business degree to go from the lab to the business. And he told me that he was working at Genzyme, which was a small little biotech startup company at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
I think it was only 100 employees or so in the 90s. And, lo and behold, I gave him my resume and they hired me and they gave me an H-1B1 visa to stay
Excellent.
in the
Wow.
in Boston. So that's, long story short, that's how I started in biotech.
Yeah, I also got a H-1B visa. That's how I got in telecom and networking through Lucent, our Nortel networks. All right, so let's talk about Latinos in bio. I think it's a common interest that we have as Latinos. I was born and raised in Colombia, as you know. So what's behind Latinos in bio?
So Latinos in Bio started with a group of 15 people that had not met each other despite being in the industry for many, many years. And we were all Latinos in different biotechs. And we just got together after work and, planned to have like a larger group of Latinos in biotech. Um, but then, the group started growing. So we said, why don't we do a more formal group? And we launched it at the end of 2019. I remember in EMD Serono here in Burlington, Massachusetts. And we had like 50 attendees at that event. So we said, well, maybe we're onto something, right? Um, and during the pandemic, we switched obviously all of our events to virtual events. So we grew until we were about 400
Wow,
Latinos in bio.
really?
Yeah. And all the people from outside of Massachusetts joined us too. So we were a nationwide organization at that point. We decided to incorporate as a 501c3 nonprofit and get some sponsorships to continue operating, right? But even until now, we are more than 1,500 members, and we are still an organization of volunteers. So there's no full-time employees or anything, but we have close to 30 sponsors. So all of the biopharmas that you can think of are sponsoring us and supporting what we do. And we have programs for early stage career Latinos, middle stage career Latinos, and then we also have a C-suite and board ready program that is first in kind to prepare Latinos to not only enter the workforce in biotech, but really make progress in their career until they reach the C-suite and the board to have leadership positions. And I think we are very happy with the outcome. So it's a wonderful group, and it continues to operate. I'm a co-chair right now. Mhm.
Excellent. I applaud that initiative, Carolina, and I participated as a mentor in one of the rounds a couple years ago, and I was fortunate enough to see my mentee grow
Mhm.
in the Latino. She was a Colombian girl living in Boston. So anyway, let's talk about trends, Carolina. As you know, this podcast is about accelerating global clinical trials. And what trends do you see in the industry? Meaning any political trends that you want to discuss, or economic or funding trends? That's a hot topic today in biotech startups or medtech startups. So, what do you see happening that is relevant to the discussion today?
So in biotech, um, the trend that I see, and that actually I think is going to be the future of therapeutics, is nucleic acid-based therapies, right? So
Okay. What's
RNA
that?
and
Yeah.
DNA, RNA and
Okay.
DNA-based therapies. Right now, there are some challenges. Most of these, gene therapies, basically, or cell therapies, are viral based, so they're using AAV as a delivery vehicle. I think that the future is going to be non-viral delivery,
Hmm.
um, because those are the challenges that we're facing right now in the early days of DNA and RNA therapeutics. But we are moving towards a non-viral delivery, and I think that's going to be much safer for patients and um, much more efficacious, probably. So um, I know that politically, I heard this week actually that the the government has defunded mRNA projects. I think that's a mistake. I think that we had made a good start um, with the mRNA vaccines that were accelerated because of COVID, right?
Yes.
But I think the future of vaccines is going that way instead of inactivated viruses, which is something we've used for I don't know 100 years.
Hmm.
So I think that I think we as a community and as an industry need to continue to support DNA and RNA based therapeutics. There are a lot of microRNA um, reprogramming technologies that are going to be the key to longevity, in my view. And that's basically in the biotech space, right? In the medtech space, I see a lot of sensor technology, like
Hmm.
advanced sensor technologies, mostly not, um, I mean, minimally invasive sensors to track different metrics in the body. I think that's going to be really
Biomarkers.
track biomarkers, track, blood pressure, for example, and things like that. And I also see a lot of great promise on wearables, especially wearables that are for treatment of neurodegenerative diseases and controlling or harmonizing the gamma oscillations in the brain. I think that's going to be really promising for diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, etc. Mhm.
Hmm. Interesting. And I have to ask about AI. Is the keyword now? Is the marketing keyword now? And I think there's no discussion, personal, professional discussion, where AI is not being talked about. What do you have to say about AI in your field?
So, interestingly enough, I believe that in biotech we have been using AI for quite a while. We used to call it bioinformatics,
What?
but
Really? Oh.
yeah, but we used it in drug discovery, like high throughput screening of different molecules to decide which one is going to be best, etc. But of course, we did not have the AI with the compute power that the new AI technologies have. So I think that's going to be, game changing, basically. The more our scientists get used to implementing AI, the more our discovery is going to accelerate, and the better and more accurate decisions are going to be made around different drug candidates, right? Even before drug candidates, molecules alone. So I think that in biotech is going to be life changing. Still not clear how it will be implemented in medtech, like for medical devices, but I understand a lot of medtech companies are looking into incorporating AI into the data analytics and collection that they are. So now these medical devices are smart, so they are
Yes.
collecting data,
Mm-hmm.
right, constantly. And I
Yeah.
think AI can be really useful at analyzing that data and coming up with certain outcomes that will be useful for the industry. Mhm.
Okay. Anything to say about clinical research and the intersection of clinical research, AI, or any trends that you see happening in that industry or in that space?
Yeah, I think that one of the trends that I'm seeing is the emerging mini organs, right? Like
Hmm.
organoids. And I know you might not like this a lot, but Um, I think that the FDA had made a good decision a few years ago, a couple of years ago, to change the need and the requirement to do animal testing,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
started accepting more data coming out of mini organs or humanoid organoids, if you will. And that's another big trend that I see in preclinical research, right? Where companies are going to be able to maybe skip the clinical trials in mice and in non human primates and other animals and go from organoids to first in human. That's going to be a really great accelerator. The other trend that I'm seeing is that companies are looking to do clinical trials outside of the United States because the
Hmm.
cost and the paperwork in the US, hospitals, and I'm saying this even being a trustee at Mass General Hospital.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it just takes way too long, right? And
Yeah.
companies are looking into Australia because the Australian government actually provides wonderful incentives
Yeah.
for companies to do research in Australia. I think Latin America is coming up with some great new deregulation
Yes.
that is actually incentivizing companies to look at Latin America as a potential place for their in-human trials. Mhm.
Interesting. The timing of this conversation is right because the news all over Colombia this morning was that the Colombian Congress, well, two congressmen in Colombia just submitted a new bill for a new clinical research legislation in Colombia. It hasn't been updated in over 30 years. Can you believe that? Since 1993. So it was about time for Colombia to step up and
Mhm.
have a more updated and more modernized way of evaluating and approving clinical research. So now that we're talking
Absolutely.
about that, any comments about Peru? I don't hear much about Peru in the clinical research arena. I know they're a player, but do you see any initiatives or anything on Peru to modernize the law?
I have not, Julio, but I assume that the legislatures are looking into what Colombia is doing. I did hear about Brazil and a
Oh
new
yeah,
legislation around
yeah.
clinical research in Brazil, which is actually fantastic
Mm-hmm.
because Brazil used to mandate that any companies doing research in Brazilian patients, right, subjects in Brazil, had to commit to
Yeah,
provide
yeah.
therapy to those participants for life. And that really disincentivized companies to do research in Brazil because knowing that they have, when a clinical trial stops, especially in rare diseases,
Mm-hmm.
then they need to continue to provide therapy for life. When
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
chronic disease, that's really, a major commitment for a company. So the cost of the clinical trial is not just the period of testing, but it's all of basically the period after that. And Brazil just got rid of that. I think they've actually mandated that. The company shall just provide free therapy to the participants until the Brazilian universal coverage system covers for the drug, which is about 3 to 5 years maybe after approval by Anvisa. So I think that's going to be a major, major incentive for companies to look at Brazil for conducting clinical trials. Besides the fact that Latin America really is a very diverse population, racially, genetically. So you have
Hmm.
a wonderful, diverse pool of potential participants in your clinical trial that that will provide this diversity that is required now by FDA and other regulators. So, as you know, in Latin America, you can find people of all kinds of
Yeah.
descents.
Hmm.
I'm from Dutch descent, that's why I'm blonde.
Or are you really?
Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, my mother, my grandfather on my mother's side is Dutch,
Okay.
was Dutch,
Yeah.
and like that, right? There are a lot of people from European descent, a lot of people from that are African, Latin American, a
Yeah.
lot of people that are indigenous. So the diversity of the genetic pool in Latin America makes it a really interesting place to conduct clinical trials.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Carolina, let's move on to another segment. Let's talk about what you are doing with your consultancy firm. What's the value proposition that you bring to the table? How is it that you help startups succeed? How is it that you help them raise funds, expand to international markets? I want to hear the story behind your company.
Yeah, perfect. So after my last exit, Julio, in 2019, at the end of 2019, I decided to start my own consultancy, take a break from being an operating executive
Yeah.
at, 2 3 startups, and it was really a demanding role, right? And
Yeah.
when you're in a startup that is, going public, that needs to
Yeah.
launch products, etc., it's tremendous. It's 24/7, but and a lot of travel. So, in 2019, I decided to start Biostrategy Advisors. I had already been in conversations with a couple of clients that I knew were going to give me a head start on
Mm-hmm.
my consultancy, and then the pandemic hit, and I had a lot of clients that were doing COVID related technologies, whether they
Okay.
were vaccines, diagnostics. So that provided a little boost to my consultancy. And now we are 12 advisors, in
12.
different
Wow.
aspects. 12, yeah,
Amazing.
in different aspects of strategy. We basically focus on startups and early stage, middle stage companies. We don't work with large pharma or even large biotech anymore. We like helping startups and
Yeah.
helping founders
That's
that are
beautiful. Yeah.
normally
Yeah.
scientific founders, right? That
Yeah.
are not
Yeah.
necessarily business savvy. So we
Exactly.
provide yeah,
Yeah.
we provide the business vision, the corporate strategy, the pipeline prioritization. We analyze the market, the business opportunity. We run their revenue models. Um, we do all of that strategic work up
The
front.
pitch
We
deck.
also the pitch deck exactly. As a result of that, it comes a pitch deck with a sound corporate strategy that investors and strategics can understand and can see, the company's focus on this, they're heading towards this. Even though it's early stage, I think that getting these companies investor ready or strategic partner
Oh,
ready
yes.
is
Totally.
very important.
Yeah.
Is
You're
very
looking for an
important.
exit, right? So you accelerate their
Yeah,
path to exit.
exactly. But to me, an IPO is also an exit.
Yes.
So when you're working with a biotech and medtech, and that's what I like to transmit to the scientific founders, you need to think that you're going to be going it alone for a long time and not necessarily have an exit early, right?
Yeah.
Companies like large pharma companies are not looking at assets until maybe phase two. Um, and even if so, I think a company needs to operate as if they were going IPO and going it
Yeah.
alone
Yeah.
until bringing the
Good
therapy or
point.
the
Yeah.
device to commercialization.
Yeah.
Because that really is what builds value, right? The more you progress, the more you advance. Um, let's say you can have strategic partners, right? You can work with larger biotechs or pharma, in co-development deals and things like that. But I really like to focus on making progress without a partner first. So securing some non-dilutive capital first,
Yeah.
and then friends and family, and
Yeah.
then moving into maybe early stage VC. And with that in mind, hoping for an IPO as an exit, or if along the way comes another large company with that is a great fit for your technology, then of course you need to be open to strategic deals, of course, an M&A, a licensing, things like that. But I find it that when founders are too focused on an exit, they forget to make progress early on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, really what you need to focus on in this industry is how does your technology, your product, your device will make an impact in patients. And the more you focus on that, the better your product is and the better your exit is going to be if that comes. But honestly, I my founders are not focused necessarily just on exits, are focused on bringing great value to
Sure.
patients,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
United States and around the world. Mhm.
Fascinating. So I'm curious, what's the model, the business model? I mean, you professional fees. I mean, is a fee for
Mhm.
service, or you take a small fee and then you get a percentage of the exit? How does it work in the model of charging for your services
So we work on a per hour fee basis,
per hour?
basically,
Okay.
because per hour. It doesn't matter who in my team is involved because almost all my advisors are, very experienced folks
Yes, I'm sure.
from
Yeah.
excellent, wonderful companies. But we have a per hour, and because I work with startups, we basically set up a minimum amount of hours per week and a
Okay.
maximum cap because obviously there is, they are on a budget and they
Yeah,
can't
and they have to
afford.
predict their cash flow and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if it comes down to comparing it versus hiring full-time employees in in their own companies, it's a much better deal.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the hours that we
Agree.
put are super high quality hours
Yeah.
with very experienced people that you couldn't even think about hiring in your little startup.
Yeah.
So, having a like a regulatory expert that has, registered many drugs around the world and has filed many INDs, having a pharmacology IND
Yeah.
expert, or in the case of medtech, preclinical, clinical expert in medical devices or engineering expert, that costs money. And these startups cannot afford a full-time, employee to do that. So we are like the external team. We are like the
Hmm.
outsourced external team for the company. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I once hired a $2,000 per hour attorney in California, and when I saw the work that they deliver, I'm like, wow. Now I see the difference between a $200 an hour attorney and a $2,000 an hour attorney. I mean, every second that they talk to you is like wisdom. They just spit out
Yes.
wisdom and
Yes.
productivity and effectiveness. That's really what you're looking for. Somebody who can deliver and make you move forward quicker. Yeah.
Yeah. We are not that expensive.
I know. Well, just giving you an extreme example
Because
yeah.
I've been in the other side. I've been on the startup side, and I know every penny hurts.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, we really are affordable, and we provide as much value as we can. Not only strategic, but we actually do execute a lot of the tactical work, like a TAM-SAM-SOM analysis, a revenue model, and of course, not the most experienced advisors are involved in that tactical work, but
Sure.
I also have more junior analysts that are helping with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
Mhm.
Well, we're close to the end of the show, Carolina. We usually try to keep it to 25, 30 minutes conversations. Any final words of wisdom you want to give to a new founder that is looking to grow their company?
Yes, absolutely. So founders need, again, to focus on bringing value to society. So when you are a scientist or an engineer, a biomedical engineer working on a new therapeutic or a new device, you really need to think about how does this device change the changes the standard of care in whatever disease you are focusing on. So that's one thing. You need to focus on the value that you are bringing. Again, not focus so much on the money that you're gonna get upon exit, because then you don't have your heart in the right place. So you need to have your heart in the right place and be passionate about what you do, not be passionate about millions of dollars after you exit, right? So that's number one. And we find a lot of young people that are focusing on the wrong things right now. So,
Interesting.
number one is to bring value, and the valuation of your company actually is tied to the value that you bring to patients and physicians, for that matter. So, um, and then be resilient. It is a really tough environment to raise funding right now,
Hmm.
uh, so be creative. Some companies are doing crowdfunding. Some companies are
Hmm.
still pursuing non-dilutive funding, are looking to work with accelerators, incubators, friends and family. But normally Latino founders don't have a lot of rich friends and families. So I always say, you know, need to find
Yeah.
alternatives. Need
Yeah.
to find alternatives. And obviously the incubators and accelerators help a lot. And early stage VCs are going to focus on those scientists and biomedical engineers that bring the most value. So before talking to a VC, don't don't go out and make a bad impression. Make sure that you have your business side also taken care of, your
Yeah.
financials,
Yeah.
your entity incorporated if you want in a Delaware C corp or something like that. Do not go out and talk to advice to investors prematurely, because then
Yeah.
you're just gonna
You're
kill
gonna
your
burn your
reputation.
bridges.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Carolina, do you see more Latino founders nowadays? Or yeah, what's your take on that?
I do. Well, Latinos in the United States are really killing it. They are really coming up with
Nice.
wonderful, innovative technologies. When you study in the United States, it opens up a whole new world of
Yeah.
possibilities, right?
Yeah.
But schools in Latin America are becoming really good, especially in the sciences. Argentina, Chile, they have some amazing scientists, even Colombia. And I can see that people are getting more entrepreneurial and thinking of their technology in a way to build a company rather than just to be an academic. That
Yeah.
sometimes our countries don't provide that entrepreneurial environment and the incentives and the venture capital that you need to build a company. But it's becoming more and more common. And like the founders of Syte.bio are in Argentina, and the lab is in Argentina right now, and they're doing wonderful because they have some great co-development deals. Venture capital is not there yet in the region, so I'm hoping that that will improve over time. But in terms of co-development deals and working with other companies there, things are
So
looking good.
excellent, good to hear. So a Latino founder in Chile, Argentina, needs to come to the U.S. somehow. Like Maria Aturtuaga from Colombia, she needed to be here to make her company successful because in Colombia there's really no chance. There's really no ecosystem to bring these technologies to forward, right?
That is true, and that is one of the things that BioStrategy started doing is helping companies that are outside of the U.S. to
Yeah,
do a soft landing,
yeah,
here in the U.S., whether it's Massachusetts or a different state. But yes, although there are opportunities in Latin America and there is great science, there is no capital to scale up at the level
yeah,
that you need to really build a meaningful company. So a lot of
yeah.
companies will look into doing a soft landing here in the US.
Yes, there's no risk capital. I will
Mhm.
clarify because that's really what we're looking for. Investors who are willing to take risk as we have in the U.S. And I think and Jeff Bezos I think said it in an interview the other day. the difference between the US and the rest of the countries around the world, especially in Europe, because innovation in Europe is not a thing. It's not as much as it is in the US, is because, in his words, is because of risk capital. The amount of risk capital that we have in this country is just astronomical. And that's really what fuels all these innovative startups.
Exactly, exactly. Venture capital is capital de riesgo in
Yeah,
Latin America. Maybe they
yeah,
should
yeah.
change the name because that scares investors.
Good
Like
point. Yeah.
venture capital sounds better.
Sounds better, yes. So before
Exactly.
we end, Carolina, I have to ask you about Latinos in Bio again, because I'm really curious about the future of Latinos in Bio. I think it's a phenomenal initiative, and again, I applaud what you are doing. Who else is involved in the leadership team, by the
So
way?
my co-founder is Jose Estabil.
Jose Estabil?
He's Jose Estabil from Cypherom, that is a genomics company, and he is very involved, of course, still. The chair is Giselle Perez, who is at Biogen, and other. We have 17 board members right now.
Okay, wow.
So we are basically driving the organization. Then we have a marketing and communications senior specialist, Fernanda Gamero, and she really drives the programs and the events. We have a lot of networking events. So if people go to latinosinbio.org and become a member, it's free. It's free. We don't charge for membership. You can just join the distribution list and you're going to see all the events and programs, educational programs that we have for our members, and all of our sponsors and the things that we do in the website. And if you become a Latino in Bio member, then we have a lot to offer to you. In terms of networking opportunities, in terms of educational opportunities, mentorship opportunities, and the more we help each other as Latinos in the United States, the better we're going to be.
Great, yes. And what's your future? What's your outlook for Latinos in Bio in the next 3, 5 years? Where do you want to see the organization go?
Right now, we are very centralized in Massachusetts because that's where we started.
That's what
So
I
we're
feel.
about Yeah, we're about 40% of our members are in Massachusetts. So,
Yeah.
but now we are growing a big contingent, more than 20% from California. We wanted to expand to other states, including Florida,
Yeah.
where you are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we are growing in other states. So we really want to become a nationwide organization, and do events not only in Massachusetts. We have done a couple in California, but we want to expand that, and we also want members from Latin America to
Sure.
step up and start doing activities for Latinos in Bio. We don't have chapters, and the board has made a
I was
decision
going to
not to
ask
have.
you that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really? Okay.
the
Why is that?
yeah, because we want to have, because we're an organization of volunteers. We don't want to have a lot of overhead, and then when you establish chapters, and you need a chapter lead and a chapter head and a vice chair, and et cetera,
A
et cetera.
chapter
And
website and all that. Yeah.
exactly, that creates a lot of overhead, and we really want to spend all the sponsorship money from our biopharma sponsors in programs and networking events and opportunities for people to find new jobs and opportunities for advancement, opportunities for doing business with each other and things like that. We don't want a paid chair and co-chair and all of that. We don't pay the overhead people. So we are a
Yeah.
different nonprofit in that sense. Mhm.
Oh, makes sense. Makes sense. However, I would say that it'd be fantastic to have or to incentivize local networking groups of some sort. Doesn't have to be called a chapter, but I love to connect with people in Miami. But we need somebody from above that pushes that effort, right? Even if we just meet at a restaurant every month. So
Yeah, absolutely. There is a group in Miami that we are supporting. It's called the Biotech Leaders Collaborative. I will connect you with them.
yes, please.
Um, yeah, and Latinos in Bio, we are open to really having any folks, any groups in other states that will initiate events and things like that. The board members are all over the United States, so we can even travel there. We can support it. We can support their events financially if that's needed and things like that. So we are very open
Excellent.
to having groups start activities in other states. Mhm.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm very happy every time I see a Latino founder. I've been in this industry, in the medtech clinical research industry, to be more specific, for about 15 years. And very rarely I see a Latino founder, and every time I see one, of course, it's like we feel like brothers because we're part of a small, very, very tiny community that doesn't get to shine in these industries. Usually, white male Anglo-Saxons. That's at least in medtech. I don't know much about biotech. It's not my forte. But yeah, I have one friend, Gerardo Noriega, out of San Francisco. I don't know if you heard about him. He's a celebrity in the San Francisco area, in the Latino community, or at least in the Latino life science community, because he was able to have several exits. He's very successful, and he's now the president of one of a leading medtech company out of a famous Fogarty Institute. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I'd love to meet him. No, I haven't met.
He's actually from Peru.
Is he? Oh my God, go
Yes,
over.
Gerardo Noriega. Look him up.
I
Gerardo
will. I
Noriega
will
from
definitely.
Peru.
I will
Yeah,
connect with him in LinkedIn.
yes, the company is called Percassist. Percassist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, Carolina. I think the listeners were able to capture a lot of your wisdom and knowledge and experience. Hopefully, this is a platform for everybody to learn about your work in your consultancy firm. And thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Julio. And thank you for having me. And to your listeners, I hope you had a good time. Thanks.
Sure.